Welcome back to the Malt Miller YouTube channel. It is September and that can only mean one thing.
Oktoberfest.
So it's been 6 months since our epic brew day where the three of us all brewed beers to celebrate this year's Oktoberfest as part of our seasonal brewing playlist. We've never done this before, any of us, well, other than you, Martin. We've never been planned enough to actually brew a beer in March to drink in September and October as part of the traditional Oktoberfest celebrations.
I've never had the patience to keep my hands off the beer that I've brewed that long, and it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
But they've been tucked away and awesome. Can't wait to try it.
I think I saw you dipping into your fermenter a few times, more than we did into ours anyway.
Well, hang on.
I'm allowed to do a few samples, gravity readings, yeast
Quality control, right?
Yeah.
Quality control. So we are going to try the 3 beers that we brewed. Just as a reminder, I brewed a traditional märzen. Rob, what did you brew?
I brewed what I called a Oktoberfest.
Yeah, which was a smoky kind of take on the fest beer. And then Martin?
Traditional fest beer for me.
Yeah, and the 3 recipe kits have been available throughout the whole period of time. You've been buying them and brewing them yourselves, and we know that some of you have been less patient than us and been drinking them. So we're really excited to see how they've turned out. So without further ado, should we start on the first one that is in our glass?
It's yours, James.
It is. So this is my märzen or märzen. Now, if we think back to brew day, if we look at like the colour, I had a couple of issues on brew day and I had to actually boil the beer for longer than I was ideally looking for, which I think has showed up a little bit in the colour because there is definitely a slightly darker tone to it. But I'm really pleased with the clarity.
I'd be pleased with clarity as well. It's absolutely crystal, and I don't mind if the colour's wrong. It's absolutely fantastic colour.
It's a really inviting colour, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially for this time of year when it's getting a bit chillier.
Yeah, definitely warming, right? Yeah. Head's nice. There's an almost like slight creaminess to the head as well, which I'm really pleased with. Should we go in for a sniff?
We've certainly hit it with the malt because it smells like a really malty beer.
Yeah, there's almost like a caramel tone to the malt, which has probably come from that layering of the Munich and the Vienna.
Yeah, I was going to say there's like a sweetness there to it.
Yeah. So before we try it, Martin's gone already. Before we try it, a touch on how this beer finished. So it's come in at 5.2%. with a gravity of 10-12, so a little bit of body in there to expect. So, right, me and you, Rob, you've already had a sip. Let's go in for a sip.
Doing it.
Cheers. Come on then, chaps, what do you think? I'm going to restrain my thoughts until I've heard yours.
That malt aroma really carries on into that. It's got like a coating mouthfeel about it, but the actual flavour, not quite as bitter as I was thinking that it was going to be, but moreish. It's really full on the flavour.
Yeah.
It's really got that carameliness.
Yeah, caramel.
And it's got a little bit of body to it. It makes it really kind of just, like Rob's saying, it's got a bit of mouthfeel to it in the mouth. It's very moreish.
There is a good amount of bitterness in there though that just cleans up at the end of the palate. You know, you get the beer in your mouth, you get that lovely sweet malt thing going on, and then bosh, the bitterness kicks in, which cleans the palate, ready to go in for another sip. I could drink lots of that. Luckily, I've got a 20-litre keg of it.
I think it could be slightly bitterer, a bit more of a bite perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, nice. Right, come on then. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yep, let's do it.
Martin, we're trying yours next. We're saving Rob's Smoky Boy till the end. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
So, Martin, come on, give us your thoughts on your fest beer.
Oh, it's nice, light, bright, clean. Done a good job cleaning those glasses up as well, James.
Brush up.
Nice, very kind of like rocky white head, you know, unlike mine that had that slight kind of almost espresso kind of crema colour to it. This is a crisp white head, isn't it?
Lighter in colour and lighter in aroma, although the dominant aroma is of malt, just not quite as strong as the last one. But it's just like,
I think there's a bit more yeastiness to it.
And possibly more floral as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that whilst mine, there was touches of floral notes on the nose, which we kind of talked a little bit about off camera actually. We used the same hops, which was Hallertau Mittelfeuer.
Except I used whole leaf and I think you used pellet.
Yeah.
And then you used Y yeast and I used Omega.
Yeah.
So 2 different Oktoberfest yeasts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the aroma is very much balanced. You've got light breadiness from the malt, you've got a touch of floralness, and yeah, slight yeast esters in there as well.
Absolutely crystal clear as well. And that's it. It's a straw yellow colour, really, really nice.
Well, I think we held them in the fermenter for what, 5-6 months?
Yeah, actually,
Kegging.
actually, that's worth talking about now. So, all 3 of our beers, we didn't keg them. We left them in the fermenter, and that's where they've been sat right up until you kegged yours a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, before I went on holiday, I did mine. Then you guys did yours while I was away.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of weeks in keg, which actually we said we were going to keg them directly after fermentation. We opted after, like during the fermentation process, to not do that, and we were dumping yeast out regularly, making sure we were clearing the beer.
I left my yeast in. I left it on the yeast cake the whole time.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's
Rebel.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Rebel. Well, let's see if we can pick that up in the flavour.
Yeah.
Right?
And the other thing is, if you think about while we're talking about the clarity of this, these kegs were in our cold store downstairs. So we've literally just brought them up the stairs. You've not disturbed any sediment in the bottom of the keg, which means we've kegged a really bright clean beer.
Yeah,
It shows the cleaner you can keg it, the better that it is in the glass.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's go in for a taste. Cheers.
What do you think?
Very clean. Very moorish. I'd probably say slightly less bitter than I would ideally want.
Rob, what's your thoughts?
I think it's slightly drier.
Yeah.
I think it's slightly drier, and that it thins out the body slightly, which makes it more drinkable. However, I think that this beer is very slightly oxidized. You know, when you first detect that a beer is oxidized and it doesn't taste of wet cardboard, it's not on the aroma, but the taste, it's slightly dulled.
Yeah.
And I think that possibly is.
Well, what Rob's saying about the dryness, it came in at 1009, which is lower than it was supposed to. So it has dried out further than I wanted.
Yeah,
And it's coming at 5% rather than 4.6.
Right, okay. So yeah, there's definitely been some interesting stuff happen during your fermentation, and whether it has picked up a little bit of oxygen whilst it's been in the fermenter and then had a little bit of a re-fermentation, don't know.
I don't know, because I kept topping so we did it in the GF30 with our little valve on top with the post. So I was just constantly topping up the CO2 on all 3 of the keg, on all 3 of the fermenters.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, that's a really interesting point that needs reiterating. So the fermenters weren't open at any point. We've got our transfer post on the top, the corny post, which keeps the fermenters completely sealed.
I mean, they're not a pressure vessel, so that gas is going to escape, and maybe I should have been doing it more frequently.
Maybe.
Well, you'd think that. Well, let's finish trying all 3 and see whether we pick that up on any of the others.
Yeah, like you said, James, it's really drinkable. It is mildly not where I wanted it to be. I get kind of like a little slight chamomile-y, florally taste on the end of it, which I wasn't hoping was going to be there. It wasn't on there last time I brewed this beer. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it happens sometimes, you know, things go awry. We were pushing the boundaries here. 6 months worth of maturation. You know, we've done 90 days maturation before, haven't we, when we've brewed things like Budvar, but 6 months, we're pushing the envelope.
And that amount of time on the yeast as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not the usual done thing.
No.
We're experimenting here. I'll go on to say, recipe formulation, absolutely awesome. It's absolutely on the button recipe formulation wise. I think it's more of a storage.
Storage and process.
It's still a delicious beer. I mean,
it's not going to go to waste. I can promise you.
It's still an absolute delicious beer.
Time.
Yeah.
We are taking minute points because we want to completely and utterly excel.
Yeah. Right, I think there is now only one thing left to do, and that is to dive into the not traditional, off-piste, slightly bizarre fest beer that Rob's brewed.
Right, Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest indeed. Look at that, Rob.
I know. I'm actually really pleased with the colour because that's absolutely what I was shooting for.
Yeah, it's lovely copper amber.
Not a traditional darker smoked beer. This is I definitely wanted it to be lager colour.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, yeah, looking at it in the glass, it looks amazing. It's just a shame I'm going to have to smell it and taste it. I might look for smoked malts.
It's not your style, is it, Martin?
Well, no, we went to Bamberg, didn't we? And The
Yeah.
longest I've ever nursed a pint for, I think.
Yeah,
It was while you worked with the board.
Yeah, I did. I must have had 4 or 5 pints. Yeah, anyway, that was a different time.
I'd say the head on it's lovely as well, and like some nice lacing.
Actually, back to the sort of moussey style head. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice indeed. Let's go for a smell. Man, that smells amazing. I'm sorry, Rob, but I know Martin doesn't like it. I'll drink his glass based on the smell
This
alone.
is taking me back to Bamberg, that smoke
yeah.
maltiness. Because it was the Hellers I drunk there, and it's got that just slight background sniff of smoke.
Yeah, because that beer doesn't have any smoke malt in it at all.
No, it just goes through the system and
Yeah,
it picks
yeah.
it up that way.
Yeah, this doesn't have like the full-on kind of smoked ham thing.
No.
There's just a really nice background smokiness. Yeah.
20% smoke malt, so it's on the lower. For me, it's on the lower end of the smoke.
Well, yeah, because you've brewed 100% smoked
Yeah.
malt lagers before, haven't you?
God.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
It's still a malty beer.
it is very much so. Very much.
Vienna malt is. You could use that. The Weimann Vienna at 100%, but yeah, it just makes for such a great aroma.
Yeah.
I'm going in.
Yeah, me too. Cheers.
It's thick as well, isn't it? It's got a.
Yeah.
It's
It's got some body.
come out at 5.7%.
Wow.
So finishing gravity at 10, 12.
I think that 6 months maturation as well has really allowed the smoke malt to harmonise with everything else that's going on in the glass. You know, it's not overpowering. When you taste it, you get subtle notes of breadiness, you get a slight roastiness. There's obviously the smoke thing going on, but none of it is overpowering each other.
I think of all the smoked beers I've tried, and I have tried a few because
Yeah, you have.
I got put in to do a competition and judge the smoke category.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens, but it is actually really nice. If you look at it and what it actually tastes like, it's very balanced. It's very smooth. It's got that body in there. The smoke isn't taken away from the fact that it's a malty beer.
Yeah.
You've got that malty note coming through.
Yeah, little touches of caramel and
Yeah.
I think quite often when you taste the smoked beer, even if you're used to drinking them, that first sip of a pint is always, whoa, yeah, that's a smoked beer. I'm not getting that with this.
No.
No, I think the more you go in for, the more you can appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I'm absolutely delighted with that.
Even with your boil over.
Even with my boil over, even if with the clear up that you guys had to do, even with actually me not kegging the beer, you kegging the beer because
Yeah,
I
Thank you,
had
Manky Valve.
Well, hang on, slow down for a
Well,
moment.
that time.
So Rob's taking all the credit here.
Yeah.
We cleared up after
Yeah,
him.
I
We
cleaned up
kegged
his
his beer.
Yeah, you could-
Yeah, actually, we should take credit for this.
I came up with the recipe.
I think you can take the keg home then, James. in that
Yeah,
case.
I'm going
You've
to take
done
both
that
of them.
work for it.
You don't get a keg, Rob. I'm taking both of them. I'm going to have an Oktoberfest at my house.
Right, just in roundup, I think that doing this experiment and actually keeping our hands off the beer has taught us loads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that rounding off of a beer over a long period actually can really play dividends.
What I wanted to get from this was our reflections on whether we would do this again, whether we would go to the extent of having a beer or a fermenter or a keg tied up for 6 months, because it's a long period of time for a home brewer, you know? That could be a third of your production capacity or all of your production capacity.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, you know, and it takes planning and time. I think for me, I would do it again, but I would do a couple of things differently. Firstly, I would have done what we actually said at the beginning, which was allow fermentation to complete, transfer it to a keg, put that keg somewhere cold and let it mature in the keg. I can be far more comfortable that I've got a completely oxygen-free environment doing it that way. There obviously are fermenters out there that you can buy that allow for that, but then you're tying up a fermenter for 6 months.
Yeah, the one thing that I would take away is actually, if you're going to mature for that amount of time, actually dial the bitterness up, because as we all know, the bitterness slightly fades over an amount of time. And if you're going to leave it for 6 months, the amount that the bitterness drops is actually quite a bit. And this beer, same as one of the others where we said actually it could do with a bit of higher bitterness, and I think that this might actually benefit from that. So just dial that bitterness
just to knock off some of the slightly sweeter tones a touch.
Yeah.
Martin, what's your thoughts on the journey we've been
I
on?
think very similar to you, James, but my mind immediately jumped to, it's like, you know, I have brewed that recipe before and I have left it for that period of time before. And I did do the longer term in the fermenter with no issues. Took it off the yeast cake that time though. But I'm now thinking, well, actually, wouldn't it be nice to have like a dedicated larger keg or vessel or like a mini uni as a bright tank and leave that sitting there for 6 months?
That would do it.
That for me just kind of thinks, actually, if I want to elevate and do this more frequently, look at kind of getting something that is dedicated to that.
Yeah, dedicated for seasonal brewing, long-term tanks. Yeah, I like that. You know, we've touched on it before, but we've done a few long-term fermentations and maturations now aimed around lagers. I mean, you can mature lots of beers for longer periods of time. You know, we're coming up to Christmas, you know, and people will be thinking about their big dark beers that they want to have on for that time, and they benefit from that maturation. So yeah, having a keg or a fermenter, or like you say, one of the mini unis as like a bright tank that you can just keep something in for that longer period of time would be a really nice enhancement to your overall brewing arsenal at home.
Well, I do kind of do that longer time, and I keep doing it in the fermenter, you know, because I'm lucky. I've got 3 fermenters that I can hook up to glycol. But, you know, I do it kind of when I go on holiday, or I think, well, actually, here's a period where I can't brew for a few months or a few weeks, and I think, well, I'm going to brew a longer term beer that can just sit there. But I'm actually now thinking, if I'm doing that on such a frequent basis, that dedicated vessel or tank or keg or whatever it is, that is purely just leave it. I think it's the next step for me, I think.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
What a great experiment.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Really, really enjoyed it.
Right, come on then, Rob. Rank them. 1, 2, 3. What was your favourite?
I think I would go with, actually, as a drinkable beer, your beer.
Oh, thank you very much.
I really would. I loved the head on it. The colour was absolutely amazing, massively quaffable, and it's a please all beer.
Yeah, okay.
Then I would go with mine, and then I would go with yours. Sorry, Martin.
Martin?
Well, I was going to say Rob's, but since mine's bottom there. No, I'm going to go with Rob's, because even though I don't like smoked beers, I appreciate this beer for what it's got in it. And, you know, I'm adapting to it. And, you know, I want to try and open my horizons and kind of broaden what I drink.
This is your gateway drug.
This could be my gateway beer. You know, and as we both contributed massively to that, maybe we split the keg.
Yeah, okay. So Rob gets nothing. We get a 9 litre each of his. Yeah, cool. That sounds great.
That ain't happening.
Brilliant. So that would be your first. What would be your second?
I think yours.
Okay.
Because, you know, it is something slightly different. It's got that beautiful sweet maltiness to it. I'm very happy with my beer, and it's going to get drunk. I'm not disappointed in it. It's definitely not train pour.
It's a great beer.
But I'm also interested in yours again, as in it's offering me something that I would not normally brew myself.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Nice.
Come on, James.
Well, I am not going to vote for myself as number 1. I'm going to vote for yours. I'm absolutely blown away with this, Rob. I love it.
I'm delighted with it.
You were my gateway into smoked beers. You opened my eyes to it. You gave me a bottle of Schlenkerla, and that just kind of knocked me for 6, and I fell in love with smoked beer. And then you inspired me with that 100% smoked malt lager that you made that time, which I then rebrewed a similar recipe of. It was my first lager that I ever made. So for that reason, this is my number 1. My number 2 would be my own. My third would be yours, although I think my reasons for were between second and third are because, to your point, there's like a slight chamomile thing going on in yours, which if it wasn't there, I'd probably be really pushed to make a decision between 2 and 3. We've got to think about what we've got to do next.
Well,
right?
I'm already thinking about it and thinking, like, well, actually, why have we got to wait until March to do another long-term
No, wait.
beer?
No, we need to do it now.
Yeah.
Like answers on a postcard below.
Yeah, stick them in the comments. Let us know what you want to see us through. I mean, Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got a big Impy Stout challenge coming our way, you know? We also need to do round 3 of yours and I's homebrew head-to-head. Maybe Rob comes in as a guest appearance if you like something out of WWE.
On that note, any questions about the beers that we've brewed, tap us up in the comments below.
Also, if you have brewed any of these recipes yourselves, we'd love to see how you found them. So again, let us know in the comments below.
Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.